اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. يا دائم الفضل على البرية، يا باسط اليدين بالعطية، يا صاحب المواهب السنية، صل على محمد وآله خير الورى سجية، واغفر لنا يا ذا العلا في هذه العشية. Continuing on with what we were talking about last night as far as the igniting of many uprisings and revolutions after the revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What Imam Hussein did, among the many benefits of the uprising of Karbala, was he gave the people the courage, the bravery to stand up against dhulm and oppression. And the ripple effect was many uprisings happening after Ashura. As I mentioned, the first, we could say, official uprising that occurred was in the year 65 after Hijrah, which was a year after the death of Yazid. Even though in Al-Madinah al-Munawwara, as I had mentioned, there were a lot of uprisings that occurred that brought about many disruptions, which is what led to the Battle of Al-Harra. But officially, something that we could say was very systematic was the uprisings that started from the time of the Tawabin and continued on after that. I mentioned the names of those who were the leaders of the Tawabin movement. They were, of course, recognized people, highly respected. Some of them were companions of Imam Ali, some of them were companions of Imam Hussein. The likes of Sulaiman ibn Surad or Surrad al-Khuzai and others, they were really big figures in that time. And it was just a matter of them announcing what they were doing, which is what led so many people to start joining these uprisings. It is said that, for example, in the case of Sulaiman ibn Surad, he only requested from a few number of people to join his uprising, but it ended up that over 4,000 people joined the uprising of Al-Tawabin. The initial announcement was that we are going to join together and meet together at the holy shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or at that time it was the burial site of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and from them, that is where we're going to commence our extracting of revenge against those who perpetrated the atrocity, the massacre of Karbala. Now, we have to be very selective when we use these kind of words like revenge, avenge, because it's not in the custom of Islam and Ahlul Bayt to do something with a sense of revenge. In the case of the Shuhada of Karbala, in the case of the companions and the family members of Imam Hussein alayhi salam who participated in fighting against the enemy, in the case of Imam Hussein himself, you don't see any sense of not only them losing hope in what they are going to be expected to do, but also you don't see that they went out of what would be the normal reaction in the case of a battle and a fight. They didn't have that sense of intiqam, that sense of revenge when they were fighting in the battlefield on the day of Ashura. They were doing it all purely for the sake of God. It wasn't for the sake of avenging the killing of one of the family members of Ahlul Bayt or avenging the killing of one of the elite companions, Habib ibn Madahir, or any of the others. And that but only shows the level of ikhlas and sincerity that they all had in making sure that each and every strike that they did was for God and for God only. If you remember, I said when we reflect on the day of Karbala and all of the events that occurred after Karbala, it's all a matter of us wanting to draw examples, practical examples that we are able to use in our life today. When you look at the likes of the companions of Imam Hussein and the level of devotion that they had to the cause, the sincerity and the loyalty that they had, so much so that Imam Hussein himself had said, I have not seen any companion similar or more loyal to my companions. That brings us to the question that we have to ask ourselves. What does loyalty mean? What is loyalty? Is loyalty standing for your friend, whether your friend is right or wrong, because he is your friend, because she is your friend? That means you have to stand with them. And we usually see this, that you have this sense of wanting to defend your friend or defend your family member, even though you might know that what they are doing is oppressive and wrong. This is, of course, against our religion, Islam. So what does loyalty mean? Is loyalty you to go off and commit crimes, for example, to show that you're a part of a group? Is loyalty for you to, for example, overlook your own duties and obligations and wajibat? What does loyalty mean? When we look at these key akhlaqi, moral concepts that we are able to derive from the message of Karbala, loyalty, sacrifice, bravery, what do all of them mean? And how do we use them? How are we able, as I've said this a few times now, how are we able to activate them in our practical life? Otherwise, if we were to look at the event of Karbala just as an abstract concept, it's going to be pointless and useless for us. We revisit Karbala because we know it is going to have an impact on our lives and ourselves. In the case of those who really felt bad about them not being there to help Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and as explained, many of them had legitimate excuses in them not being there on the day of Ashura. They wanted to make sure that they compensated for their absence, which is why they participated in extracting revenge. And again, revenge in the sense of it being something that is going to serve in a positive way, not something that is going to serve in a negative way. In Islam, we don't believe in mutilating of bodies. That's what happened on the day of Ashura, isn't it? Every single practice that was an abomination, that was evil and bad and condemned, not only in the religion Islam, but also in the Arab kind of practices, the tribal practices at that time, were all violated on the day of Ashura. That's why it is such a grave musibah. That's why it is such a severe atrocity that occurred. I ended up last night speaking about Al-Mukhtar, and I said that there were certain differences that existed between these groups. I'm not going to say ideological differences. I would prefer to use the word strategic differences or political differences. Some of them were genuinely strategists, like in the case of Ibrahim, the son of Malik al-Ashtar alayhi salam. He was a strategist. Al-Mukhtar was very strategic in what it is that he did. But in the case of Sulaiman and those who started off in the beginning of the Tawabin movement, a lot of that was emotional reaction and not really done in a very systematic, strategic way. Which is why in a lot of cases you can see that they were hunted down and they were killed. Even in the case of Al-Mukhtar and also in the case of Ibrahim as well. Another thing that's very important to mention here that happened post Karbala was they were fighting on many different battlefields simultaneously all at once. There was the fighting against the Bani Umayyad clan, and that of course took out a lot of effort, and they were very effective in that. They brought Bani Umayyah to its knees, which is why that was the beginning of the fall of Bani Umayyah. But there were also those battles and fights with the Marwanis and also with the Zubayris as well. All of these occurred in different areas in the Muslim region at the time. Some of them were in Kufa, some of them were in the outskirts of Kufa, all the way until Al-Mukhtar was killed by Mus'ab ibn Zubayr, along with the wife of Al-Mukhtar, who was also killed as well, and 7,000 of his soldiers. I would recommend my brothers and sisters to watch the nice movie that was made, the nice Iranian movie that was made on Al-Mukhtar, but also to have an open mind about the historical accuracy of some of the information that was shared there as well. That's also very important. Finally, seeing that I started off a little bit late tonight, so I don't want to keep everyone waiting, and Samahat al-Sheikh is here as well. Did these movements succeed or did they fail? Evaluating these movements, did they succeed or did they fail? A very quick assessment of these movements is we can say that these movements did not fail and they served their purpose. What was the purpose? The purpose was to hunt down the main heads of those who committed the atrocity of Karbala, and that's what they were effective and successful to do as well. There is also that strong view that they also brought a level of happiness to our Ai-Imma, عليهم السلام. Tomorrow I'll speak about another uprising, another revolution, and that is the uprising and the revolution of Shaheed Zayd that happened in the year 120, which was a big gap between these two times, against the Khalifa Hisham ibn Abdul Malik. And we will discuss those post-Mukhtar uprisings that occurred, and as well also making sure that we connect them, reconnect them back not only to what happened as far as the effects, the good positive effects of the revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but what lessons are we able to draw from what happened in those years in early Islam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafi khalqillahi Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.